The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as High Commander Vortex of the Krellin Empire stepped forward. His 4 eyes scanned the assembled representatives from 30 different species. Today was the day they would finally understand the humans. For 300 years, humanity had spread across the stars. They had built colonies on hostile worlds. They had survived plagues that killed other species in days. They had won wars against enemies with superior technology. The galaxy wanted to know their secret. "We have captured a human transport vessel," Vortex announced. His voice echoed through the massive hall. Aboard were 12 adult humans and 23 of their young. "We call them cubs because they are small and weak-looking." Ambassador Threll of the Vossian Republic leaned forward. Her silver skin reflected the chamber lights. "What do you propose to do with them?" Vortex smiled. It was not a friendly expression. "We will test them. We will discover what makes humans so dangerous. We will start with the cubs." The council members exchanged nervous glances. Testing children seemed cruel, but they needed answers. Humans had become too powerful to ignore. Deep beneath the council chamber, the captured humans sat in a large holding cell. The adults had formed a protective circle around the children. A human female named Sarah Chen stood at the front. She was tall with dark hair and calm brown eyes. She had been a teacher on Earth before becoming a colony administrator. "Stay calm," she told the children. "Remember what we practiced. Remember what your parents taught you." A small boy named Marcus tugged at her sleeve. He was only 7 years old. "Are they going to hurt us?" Sarah knelt down to look into his eyes. "They might try to scare us, but we are humans. We do not break easily." The cell door opened with a hiss. 20 Krellin soldiers marched in. They wore heavy armor and carried weapons that hummed with deadly energy. Behind them came a tall alien with gray skin and too many eyes. This was Scientist Praxis, the Empire's leading expert on biological warfare. "Separate the cubs from the adults," Praxis ordered. The soldiers moved forward. The adult humans tensed, but did not fight. They had agreed to cooperate for now. Fighting would only get the children hurt. Sarah watched as the children were led away. She caught the eye of Marcus and gave him a small nod. The boy straightened his shoulders and walked with his head held high. The children were taken to a large testing chamber. The walls were made of dark metal. Strange machines lined the edges of the room. In the center was an open space where the children were told to stand. Praxis observed them through a thick window. Beside him stood Commander Vortex and several council observers. They had come to watch the famous human cubs break under pressure. "Begin the first test," Praxis said. Without warning, massive cannons emerged from the walls. They pointed directly at the group of children. The weapons began to charge with a terrible whining sound. Energy crackled along their barrels. The alien observers leaned forward. Surely the cubs would scream. Surely they would run and cry and beg for their parents. But the human children did something unexpected. They looked at the cannons. They looked at each other. Then they sat down on the floor in neat rows, just like they were in a classroom. Marcus spoke to the younger children. "Remember what Teacher Chen said. Deep breaths. Count to 10 in your head." The cannons fired. The sound was deafening. Bright light filled the chamber. The floor shook with the force of the blast, but the weapons were set to miss. The shots struck the walls behind the children, leaving smoking craters. When the dust cleared, the aliens stared in disbelief. The children had not moved. Some of the youngest ones had covered their ears. A few had closed their eyes. But not one had screamed. Not one had run. "Impossible," Vortex whispered. "They should be terrified." A small human girl with red hair actually yawned. She looked bored. Praxis made notes on his data pad. "Increase the intensity. Fire again." The cannons roared once more, and again, and again. Each time the shots came closer. Each time the noise grew louder. Each time the floor shook harder. The human cubs sat through it all. Some of them started playing hand games with each other. Others whispered jokes. Marcus organized a quiet game of counting ceiling tiles. After an hour of continuous bombardment, Praxis called for a halt. His four hands were shaking as he reviewed the data. Their heart rates barely increased, he reported. Their stress hormones remained stable. How is this possible? Our own young would be catatonic by now. Commander Vortex was furious. Try something else. Use sonic weapons. Use chemical agents. Use whatever you must. For 2 days, the aliens tried everything. They filled the room with horrible smells. They played sounds that drove other species mad. They changed the temperature from burning hot to freezing cold. They kept the lights on for hours, then plunged the room into total darkness. The human children adapted to everything. When it was cold, they huddled together for warmth. When it was dark, they told stories to pass the time. When the terrible sounds played, they sang songs from Earth to drown them out. The youngest children sometimes cried, but the older ones always comforted them. They shared food equally. They took turns sleeping while others kept watch. They acted like a tiny army that could not be defeated. On the 3rd day, the council observers demanded answers. "These cubs show no signs of breaking," Ambassador Threll said. "They are stronger than our adult warriors. What are humans teaching their young?" Praxis had no answer. He had never seen anything like this. Commander Vortex made a decision. Bring in the adult female, the one called Chen. Perhaps threatening their cubs directly will reveal the truth. Sarah Chen was dragged into the observation room. She saw the children through the window. They looked tired but unbroken. Pride swelled in her chest. "Your cubs are impressive," Vortex admitted, "but everyone has limits. Tell me your secret, or we will increase the tests beyond safety limits." Sarah looked at the alien commander. "You want to know our secret? I will show you." She walked to the intercom system and pressed the button. Her voice echoed into the testing chamber. "Children, listen carefully. These aliens think they understand fear. They think loud noises and cold rooms will break you. But they have never met human children." The kids all looked up at the speaker. They recognized Teacher Chen's voice. "I am going to count to 3, Sarah continued. "And when I reach 3, I want you to show them exactly what human cubs can do when they get angry." The alien observers exchanged confused glances. This made no sense. What threat could tired children pose? Sarah began counting. 1. Something changed in the testing chamber. The children who had been sitting calmly began to stand up. Their faces shifted from patient boredom to something else, something darker. 2. The children formed a circle. They held hands, their eyes fixed on the observation window. Every alien in the room felt a chill run down their spine. The cubs no longer looked like scared prisoners. They looked like predators waiting to strike. Praxis checked his instruments frantically. The children's heart rates were increasing rapidly. Adrenaline flooded their small bodies. Their body temperature rose. Their pupils dilated. "What is happening?" Vortex demanded. Sarah Chen smiled coldly. "Human children are taught from birth to stay calm under pressure. We train them for emergencies. We prepare them for disasters. They learn to suppress fear and think clearly in chaos." She leaned closer to the window. "But we also teach them something else. We teach them that when a trusted adult counts to 3, all that suppressed emotion is released at once. 3 means the time for patience is over. 3 means they are finally allowed to fight back." Commander Vortex suddenly understood. The cubs had not been helpless. They had been waiting, gathering their strength, controlling their rage. "Stop her!" he shouted. "Do not let her finish the count." But Sarah was faster. Her voice rang out clear and strong. 3! The testing chamber exploded into chaos. The children screamed war cries that echoed off the metal walls. They grabbed anything they could use as weapons. They threw equipment at the cameras. They pounded on the walls with their small fists. 23 human cubs raged like tiny storms. Their fury was primal and terrifying. They fought with teeth and nails and absolute fearlessness. But that was not the worst part. In the holding cell above, the adult humans heard the count, and they had been waiting too. Alarms blared throughout the facility. Reports flooded in from every sector. The adult prisoners had overwhelmed their guards. They were breaking through security doors. They were coming for their children. Commander Vortex watched his screens in horror. Human adults fought with weapons stolen from fallen soldiers. They moved through his facility like a wave of destruction. "How?" he whispered. "We outnumber them. We have better weapons." Sarah Chen answered him calmly. "You tested our children for 3 days. That gave us 3 days to study your guards, 3 days to plan, 3 days to wait." She smiled again. "Humans do not break under pressure, Commander. We simply store that pressure until it becomes useful." The door to the observation room crashed open. Human adults poured in. They secured the children within minutes. They captured every alien in the facility without killing a single one. When the Galactic Council learned what happened, they immediately sued for peace. They returned the humans to their ship. They offered trade agreements and alliance treaties. But the real lesson spread across the galaxy faster than any ship could travel. Stories were told in 1,000 languages about the human cubs who sat calmly through cannon fire. About the count to 3 that unleashed tiny warriors. About the species that turned patience into a weapon. Other races began watching human children differently. They noticed how parents trained their young. They saw the drills and practices and emergency preparations. They understood that every calm human child was a coiled spring waiting to release. And throughout the galaxy, a new rule became common knowledge. Never threaten human cubs, never test their limits. And above all else, never let a human adult reach the count of 3. Because when humans finally stop being patient, the entire galaxy learns to be afraid.